Good morning, everyone. This meeting of the House Environmental Committee will now come to order. Rep. Rivera, will you lead us in the pledge? Thank you. Evan, can you take the roll? Okay, here you go, right here.
Vitale,
Present.
Brown,
Designation.
Fleming, Hohenstein, Isaacson,
Present.
Kazim, Otten,
We have designations for those two. Okay, so we have designations for Kazim and Otten.
Pielli,
Designation.
Rivera, Salisbury, Schlossberg,
Designation.
Steele,
Designation.
Takak,
Designation.
Webster, Rader, Bashline, Day, Flick, James, Kephart, Mahaffey, Pugh, Stender, Twardzik, Wentling, Zimmerman.
Okay, we have a quorum. Can somebody get that door? Andrew, could you get that door? Before we begin, does the Republican Chair Rader have any opening comments? Okay, so we have 4 items on our agenda today, and the first item, the chair calls up House Bill 2229 by Rep. Mako. The question is, will the committee report this bill? Evan, could you read a description and a summary of this?
House Bill 2229 provides for spill notification requirements by the Department of Environmental Protection to municipalities.
Okay, discussion. I will note that this is a bill that we passed out of the House unanimously last. Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of controversy here. Anyway, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just make a short, since Zach's not here, it's an excellent bill. I think if DEP knows of a spill, the local municipality should know also. So I support the bill.
Okay, on this, are there any negative votes? Hearing none, the committee will report this bill. The next item, the chair calls up House Bill 2246 by Representative Webster. Will Evan read a brief summary or description of this bill?
House Bill 2246 provides for water withdrawal oversight by the Department of Environmental Protection for data centers.
Okay, discussion, Rep. Webster.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just be brief. I think personally, data centers are going to be an important part of our economy. And I also believe that some guardrails are required to make sure that we're doing it for the best purposes in Pennsylvania and the residents of Pennsylvania who are already here and nearby those properties. This bill does basically 2 things. You'll see the word may in the beginning. It creates the authority for the Department of Environmental Protections to have oversight of the process where water rights and other water issues are associated with the data centers. And then it has some shall statements that are about reporting that the data center would be required to do in terms of the amount of water necessary, the temperatures of the water when they take it from the local river, and then we return it or recycle it, and a couple of things like that. So, my opinion, especially, I tell you, I am a staunch environmentalist. This is a medium, this is a moderate bill that creates some agency oversight and some reporting requirements. And I would ask everyone to think hard about why that matters to every sector of Pennsylvania, as water and water rights and deep wells and aquifers and sometimes flooding and all the other issues are associated with water that we all care about. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Further discussion? Chair Rader?
I think data centers are an issue in the state today. I think we already have, I personally am for local control on these issues. I think if local governments do their jobs, these issues should be taken care of. The water and electrical use are of vital importance. We already have, I know where I live, Delaware River Water Basin would take care of things like this, and they're set up for that. So I think we already have, you can't take a lot of water out of the ground without other people getting involved. And I don't think DEP is set up for that right now. So I think we already have agencies that can handle this type of situation. I know local governments can put added rules for conditional uses on top of that. So I think this can be done already. I don't like to see a layer and layer of government, and I think this may do that. And also, I think we have HB 2150 coming out, I believe, Wednesday, which is very similar to this. So I hate to see government duplication and more and more government. I think if it's done properly, we have the government set up to handle this. It has to be done properly, and I think there are agencies out there that can do this.
Rep. Rivera?
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to speak in support of this bill. As a representative who has 2 data centers going into my district, one of the major concerns with my constituency was how much water will be used to cool the machinery. And what we've learned is that in Lancaster, we're going to have closed-loop systems installed in our data centers, which a report that would show exactly how much water is using would actually favor the data centers and make it really transparent for our residents as to how much water is being used. Apparently, it's going to be using a lot less water than the previous warehouse occupant was, and so having that information available to the public is a good thing, and through this bill that Rep. Webster is putting forth, I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Rep. Geppert?
Thank you, Chairman. I would just highlight the one section of this bill, Section H and Section I. I've seen this play out in other areas. I am very hesitant and against giving the Environmental Quality Board any power to set a fee or bond requirement and so forth. That is not good legislating. We can set those fees here if they determine they need to be a fee. We can bring in experts and do so. This is a delegation to unelected people on that board. There's about 20 of them, and most of them are unelected officials. The chairman's on the board, but they're all appointed individuals, and there's about only a couple of them on there that have any industry experience at all. It's a bunch of secretaries and so forth on this board. I just am opposed to giving unelected bureaucrats the power to legislate, essentially, and for them to at their discretion to set a fee is bad legislative practice. That has not been good in various forms. It doesn't matter if will be coming with data centers or coal mining or oil and gas wells, doesn't matter. They are unelected, unaccountable. You cannot get them to, we should be doing that. We got elected. The Constitution says we are the legislative branch. We should act like it and be legislators if we're going to create these laws. So I'm opposed just on that provision alone. Do not give the EQB any more power than they have. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Zimmerman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So DEP has the authority to measure water quality, and SRBC is more along the lines of dealing with quantity. It appears like maybe this gives DEP some authority to also get into quantity and not just quality like their duty really is.
Okay, thank you. Other further discussion? Okay, hearing none, those in favor of House Bill 2246 will say aye, and those opposed will say nay. Evan, could you call the roll?
Vitale,
Aye.
Brown,
Designation
Fleming, Hohenstein,
aye.
Isaacson,
Mary, was that an aye? So we're voting on the Webster bill, and you're in favor of it, aren't you? Okay, so Isaacson is an aye.
Kazim,
Designation aye.
Otten,
Designation aye.
Pielli,
Designation aye.
Rivera,
Aye.
Salisbury, Schlossberg,
Designation aye.
Steele,
Designation aye.
Takak,
Designation aye.
Webster,
Aye.
Rader, Bashline, Day, Flick, James, Kephart, Mahaffey, Pugh, Stender, Twardzik, Wentling, Zimmerman.
Okay, a sufficient number of ayes have been cast, and this bill will be reported to the House as a whole. The next bill, the chair calls up House Bill 2161 by Rep. Salisbury. The question is, will the committee report House Bill 2161? Evan, would you read a brief summary of this bill?
House Bill 2161 requires public utilities to replace trees on public rights of way if requested by a municipality.
Okay, any discussion? Rep. Salisbury?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, before I was privileged to be a state representative, I served 5 years on Borough Council, and I took it for granted that when utilities did work in the borough, they were required to restore a surface to either same or better condition as prior to doing the work. So, for example, if they dig up the street for the water company, gas company, to do work, they can't just leave a large pit. They have to repair the pavement. So I perhaps foolishly took it for granted that if a tree was removed, they would have to do a similar type of process. The district that I represent in Allegheny County had very severe weather incident last year, and in the wake of that, we experienced a large amount of vegetation management. Now, I don't begrudge the utilities that they, on occasion, do have to remove mature trees because they interfere with the power lines or other reasons. But it does change the nature of a community if you deforest it and do not return it to a similar or better condition in a same analogous way as with the paving example. So really, I brought this bill forward just to kind of harmonize that requirement that utilities have to restore a tree in the same way that they might have to do paving or fix a sidewalk, same type of idea.
Thank you. Further discussion. Chair Rader.
I know in my district, and I think throughout the state, there's no greater cost right now that constituents are worried about than their electric bills, and I have a concern that this would raise the cost to consumers. I like trees, I'm for trees, but I think if we try and replace every tree that an electric company impacts, I think that would get quite costly. So for that reason, I think I had another reason here, let me look. Oh yeah, I was concerned about maintenance also, because if the utility is concerned about costs and they may need some maintenance someplace, they may forego that, because if they go in and maintain a line, then maybe they're going to have to replace some trees that they've taken down also. So I also have a concern about possible maintenance issues down the line. So for those reasons, I'm against the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion?
If I could just briefly respond.
I'm sorry.
Hi, if I could just briefly respond.
Okay.
In terms of replacing a tree, there are certain species of trees that the utilities do prefer. So I think it might actually be a cost savings in a way, if you think about it long term, because if a utility is allowed to work with the municipality to replace a tree in a way that is sensible. So planting a shorter tree, a red bud, is often recommended, for example, rather than the homeowner maybe going out and just planting whatever tree occurs to them, or a shade tree committee planting whatever tree occurs to them. Might actually make things easier and cheaper in the long term for a utility. So just wanted to put that in there.
Thank you. Rep Day?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is absolutely outstanding legislation or idea behind the legislation. I'm concerned for how it would be implemented because most of the time a utility comes in and actually trims a tree, leaves it in place, and then makes it not look like a tree anymore. They cut it apart and leave the base in there to where it's not even able to perform what we like about the tree, the aesthetics, the healthiness of our communities and everything like that. And I'm concerned that whenever they remove it, they'd have to restore it, that they may even increase that practice. So I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to talk to you ahead of time, and I apologize, but I'll probably be a no because of the unintended consequences. But I certainly understand, and I think it's very important for municipalities to have the authority and the right to have, we have, like you said, you saw cut the road. I always call the municipalities of these roads that they don't maintain when a utility or even their own utility, a water or sewer company owned by the municipality, tears up the road and leaves and doesn't charge degradation fees or appropriate degradation fees. So I don't know how to say, I hate to be against this, but I just think the unintended consequences might serve the opposite purpose. So thank you for doing this, but I'll be a no.
Further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, seeing none. Evan, would you call the roll?
Vitale,
Aye.
Brown,
Designation aye.
Fleming, Hohenstein, Isaacson, Kazim,
Designation aye.
Otten,
Designation aye.
Yeli,
Designation aye.
Rivera, Salisbury, Schlossberg,
Designation aye.
Steele,
Designation aye.
Haycock,
Designation aye.
Webster, Rader, Bashline, Day, Flick, James, Kephart, Mahaffey, Pugh, Stender, Twardzik, Wentling, Zimmerman.
Sufficient number of ayes having been cast, the bill, committee reports the bill out of committee into the floor. Our final item is House Bill 289 by Rep. Briggs. The chair calls up House Bill 289. Tim, did you want to come up? Okay. Could we have a brief description of the bill from Evan?
A02653 is a gut and replace omnibus amendment to provide funding, remove non-public schools, and update reporting requirements.
Very good. So we're going to give you a chance. I'm just going to call up the amendment first. Okay. There is an amendment in my name. It's House Bill 2653, which I call up now. Would Evan read a summary of this amendment?
Oops. So yeah, this is a gut and replace omnibus amendment to provide funding, remove non-public schools, and update reporting requirements. HB 289 establishes requirements for radon testing and mitigation in schools.
Okay. Tim, tell us about your bill.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Rader, for considering 289. This is a bill that I've been introducing over the last number of sessions. Last session, Rep. Ortizai and I joined forces and kind of worked up a new version, and this amendment is reflection of some of that. I know there's some additional thoughts. I know Rep. Mahaffey and I are going to have a conversation after the meeting about some ideas he had. But our kids spend so much time in school, and radon is the number 2 causing effect of lung cancer. other than smoking. So it was something that we had talked about with a number of advocates out in the Allegheny County area, Healthy Schools folks, and it was a common sense idea to try to uncover if the schools do have radon and what would be the responsible mitigation efforts. The funding source is being added in this amendment to try to deal with the unfunded mandate side of things. But it's every 5 years there would be a test. If it triggered the EPA level of microliter, 4 microliter or something, then there would be a mitigation effort and put in estimates are in the tens of millions of dollars. It's a pretty reasonable cost to incur to make sure our children are safe in schools. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, so we are on Amendment 2653, which essentially is the bill now, or will be the bill. Discussion on this amendment. Chair Rader.
I do respect what you're all trying to do here. I understand it. I think local control is the most important thing. I like it when, even if they make a mistake, my school districts have the control to do what they think is right for the people in my area. I'd rather Harrisburg stay out of that. But also for me, property tax is the biggest issue that we have in my district. And the one thing that the school boards always tell me, we hate mandates, no matter what kind they are. So, and I kind of agree with that. I think they're mandated on almost everything, and they don't like it, and this could increase costs, which for me would increase property taxes. I mean, they're allowed to do this already. It's not like we're stopping them from testing for radon, and if the people in the community think it's important to do, they can go to the school boards and request that. So I think it can be done now. I'm concerned about what the cost may be, and if a school board has done this already but didn't do it according to how the bill is, they would have to redo it, which would add to their costs. Another issue I think I have with the bill is that now with the money aspect, I think appropriations is really where, if we're spending money, that's where they decide on how and when we should spend it. So I don't even know if that would be all right in this bill as it's stated right now. So for those reasons, even though I like the idea, I think local school boards can do that right now, and it can be done, and so I'll be a no on the bill. But thank you for trying.
Further discussion on Amendment 2653. Mahaffey? I'm sorry, Isaacson, then Mahaffey.
You can go first.
Okay, then Mahaffey.
Thank you, Representative.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the maker of the bill, Representative Briggs, Representative Ortizai, this is a good bill, and I'm going to tell you why. This is a serious problem in certain areas of the state. There's no doubt about it. And I mean, if you test and you don't have it, you move on and you're done. But if you test and you do have it, it is, like Tim said, it is the second largest cause of lung cancer. It mostly is in basements. My wife is a real estate agent, so they go through this all the time. The mitigated, it's not that big of a deal. For larger buildings, it's going to be a little bit of a more intense than just a household, but it's still something we should do. The concern I have here is, and I'm going to ask this question to the maker of the amendment, it says in here that the removal of non-public schools. So I'm assuming you're removing any other school that's not publicly funded, correct?
Yeah, and again, I'm not an expert on this. Tim's probably the expert, but the 27 million that's being used to fund this is coming out of something called the School Environmental Repair Program, restricted account, and that has certain designated uses. So the amendment conforms the definition of these schools that would be able to receive these funds to the definition of that program. In other words, this program can only be used for certain type schools, and this amendment changes the definition of the schools covered to be one-on-one with the type school that can be covered by that 27 million. I think that's, is that, did I get it?
That's my understanding as well, talking to your staff on Friday about the idea to try to make it consistent with the underlying fund that we're tapping into.
Okay.
So the funding resource is pushing that, because my concern is, non-public schools and public school children should all have this opportunity as far as the schools to make sure that they're not exposed to radon. And that is, that's where we're going with this, and I think we should stick with this. I understand the funding purposes. I understand why you did it now, and thank you for the explanation. But I really believe that this, if we're going to do this, this should be for all children, not just some children. The other part of this, and I'm going to explain this, is I had a good friend of mine who worked at 3 Mile Island, and he built a new home, and he was remodeling his basement. And he couldn't get into work because he was covered in radiation because of the radon in his basement, which immediately made him put in a mitigation system. This is serious. This is something that should be addressed, and I commend the makers of the bill for that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Rep. Isaacson.
Well, thank you. And I'm glad I allowed Representative Mahaffey to speak before me, because I was going to commend this amendment, which was worked on to address some of the issues that I had with the underlying bill, and that specifically the public funding mechanism of this came from the public funds that we created for facilities and for remediation in the past few years, and that is designated for public schools. So if we want to mandate that private schools do it, that's one thing, but that the public funds that are going to that account is for remediation of public schools. And so I appreciate very much the amendment, and to the maker for bringing this bill forward so that we can protect our children from something that potentially causes cancer. And it's in their schools, or they should know whether it's in their schools is really the goal of this, so that we can know and make sure that children are safe going into their facilities. And since we have provided public funding for remediation of facilities in the past few years, that's why I think we were all worked hard to make this amendment, to make this a really good bill. And I very much look forward to supporting this bill. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion on Amendment 2653 to House Bill 289. Rep. Twardzik.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I think it's very important to make sure every student is safe, and that's, I guess, a little disappointing that we don't do this already in schools. But the unintended consequence always rears its ugly head. So if I send my student to a cyber school, a public cyber school, will they have to come and test my basement to make sure that my child who's attending a public school in a cyber is safe from radon? It could be very costly.
Okay, I tend to doubt that, but Rep. Day.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is it, I want to raise just a quick question of constitutionality. Has that been looked at as far as separating the schools and requiring that? Has this passed constitutional muster as far as the maker or the executive directors are aware?
I might just kind of say in passing that just in the course of considering legislation over the years, public and non-public schools have been treated differently in countless ways.
Okay.
So my guess would be probably not. I mean, probably not an issue here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I trust my colleague that I've served many years with, who is the maker of this bill, and I trust his work. And I think I'm going to be in favor of this here today, but I'm going to ask him. I do have a problem with the constitutionality of separating out the schools. I think if the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania recognizes that this type of school meets muster for our requirement of education, and that type of school does as well, then it becomes a uniformity issue. And I think it, probably by my comments here today, it might establish the grounds for that, or somebody to consider that. But I trust what my other colleagues already have talked about. I agree with what they've said as well. This is a safety issue, and it's something that we should be looking at doing. I think the chairman did a great job of trying to make it a funded mandate rather than an unfunded mandate. So I applaud the chairman for doing that. And
That
I've
wasn't
worked-
me. That was somebody
wasn't
else.
you?
I don't know
Okay.
who.
Well, you brought it forward, and you're shepherding it through the process here at the committee. But most of all, I trust the underlying maker of this bill to do the right thing and to listen to the voices in the minority and try his best to incorporate those as it goes through the process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Rep Pugh.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you for bringing this forward. Being somebody who had the real estate license for years and years prior to this job, I can appreciate the work that goes into radon testing and the systems that get installed. I do have a concern on real quick research in reference to this. A 65,000 square foot school, because they're built differently than standard households are, could cost in the upward of $150,000 to put a mitigation system in. So having two schools inside of my district that are severely underfunded to the point that they have to raise taxes each year just to survive to the maximum allowable by the state, will there be guidelines in how this money is distributed from the schools for those that are adequately funded and those that are underfunded?
Tim?
So I don't have the amendment in front of me, but Evan, was there still language that distinguished the economics of the schools? I know one version did have that.
Yes. So let me find the
I'm
language
sorry, Evan.
here. So for the under the mitigation funding under let's see, I believe that's is that K? Or yeah, I think it's under K, K2. So to the extent possible, the department shall prioritize reimbursements for economically disadvantaged school entities.
So yes, thank you, Evan.
Okay, so economically disadvantaged, meaning we'll take into consideration what it takes to actually operate that school versus what we're giving them. Does that make sense? So it's not necessarily in a poverty-stricken area, the school district, but what it takes to actually run the school, we are very under.
Yeah, so I mean, I think what Rep. Isaacson, Rep. Mahaffey, what other reps have mentioned, and you, we can tweak that. I mean, the unfunded side on the non-publics, we would have to find another source of revenue, another funding source. I mean, we could add money if we all want to do that to fund this. What it currently is, it's tapping into money that is specific for public schools. So I don't want to be the one to change that. I mean, that is we fought hard for that funding, and Rep. Isaacson was part of leading that effort. But if there's a way to get another source of money to fund it, I'm cool with that. And then getting the language to make sure that, I mean, we were thinking the economically disadvantaged schools would address the funding formula, right? So if schools need help, the department could look to see who needs a little bit more help than other school districts. If there's a better way to word that to make sure a school district in your situation is being looked out for, I'm open to that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Rep. James.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Conceptually, this is kind of an interesting bill. Thank you, Mr. Briggs. I wonder if you could, for the audience, and for me at least, put a little more information out there about the source of the funding. And you started to touch on it under page 3, item K2, I guess. But there's a $25 million comment, and then there's a $7 million comment. Where are those funds right now, and where are they going to come from?
Yeah, again, my knowledge is limited, but and Mary might know better. But there's the school environmental repairs program restricted account, which has money, and for certain designated purposes of which this would qualify, and that is where. So it's existing money, as I understand it. Mary, help me out here.
Is this an annual commitment we're making here, Representative Briggs?
So right now, we fought hard for lead and asbestos abatement in a number of schools. Radon wasn't included in what we funded. So that money was allocated. I don't think it's a recurring allocation. I'm looking at Rep.
I'm
Isaacson.
happy to answer.
Yeah, okay. Rep. Isaacson can answer it, and then I can answer your second question.
Okay, the gist of it, because we had a lengthy discussion, that's why we're all going round robin on this bill for this amendment last week. When we came up with the new funding formulas for schools, we also carved out and created a facilities fund for the remediation and, basically not school construction, but dealing with the issues many of the schools face with regard to their facilities. So there's a separate funding pot that is separate from our funding formula that school districts are able to tap into. We are in this bill, as drafted, we're attempting to tap into a portion of that. Whether this goes through and how that gets divvied up, that's for us to allocate every year in a budget. So we can't, saying that it's reoccurring revenue relies on us funding our budget each year and how much we're going to do it. So this is a proposal towards what we're doing as we're drafting this budget, and we'll see how that plays out. But as part of funding, we all heard a lot in the last few years and actually decades from our school districts and everything else about lead, asbestos, and crumbling facilities and infrastructure, which is why, as a member of the Basic Ed Funding Commission, it didn't matter whether it was in a rural area or an urban area or suburban area, everybody had facility issues, which is why we did this when we came out of the commission and started funding this. So certainly, as we go forward in this budget process, should radon be specified, it's something that we're going to have to address and fund. But for the purposes of this legislation and understanding where we would try and negotiate money to fund these remediations and assist the school districts with this, that is where Chairman Briggs has identified it. Certainly, like I said, as we go through this process in the budget, knowing that this is going forward, that's where we're talking about. I hope I explained
No,
that.
I think that was awesome. Thank you, Rep. Isaacson. And I think, the intent isn't to raid other, they all should be addressed. And if we tap into this, we raise awareness that radon is something we should also be addressing. And it's the first round of tests that school districts do is way bigger of an issue. I think that's something we should know, and we should advocate for increased funding. The hope is we did some math with experts what the remediation could cost and what sort of positive results could come up with. The testing is pretty minimal, and then the mitigation would be more increased. It's every 5 years, so if you mitigate it 1 year, if you deal with it, hopefully those schools are in good shape in the future, and year 5, year 6, they're not as shocking. But if it's something that is showing that we have a real problem and we're putting kids at risk every day we send them to school, and let alone teachers who can spend a career in the same building that is exposed to that much radiation, I think that's something as public policy makers we should know and be able to advocate for increasing that mitigation funding, if it's using that funding or something unique. I wouldn't be comfortable just letting a school district. They're not doing it now, most of them, because they don't want to know what they do. It's, deniability is easier to defend than knowing they have a problem and don't want to deal with it. So I think it's the testing is important, and then providing some sort of relief on the mitigation is just as important.
Thank you. Chair Rader?
Representative Briggs, I don't know if, and maybe you know the answer. I'm just asking, how much money is in the fund that you're talking about taking $25 million out of?
I'm sorry, I don't have that budget number in front of me.
Do you know, Representative Briggs?
I don't know, but I think when we first created it was in the hundreds of millions. Was it?
Yeah, it's
400
not.
million?
It's not 26 million or anything like that.
No. I mean, we're not
Oh, no,
completely
it's more than
zeroing
that. It's more
it
than
out.
that.
Okay.
It is more than that. Like I said, we're moving a piece of legislation. He's trying to identify it. This is certainly going to go through the budget process and see how
all
much we're
works.
funding these things as we move forward. But this is just I commend the maker of this bill for trying to identify it to certainly alleviate some of the concerns about unfunded mandates.
And that's, I'll get back to that concern again, because as you said, the money's there this time around, but it might not be there next time around, something we have to fight for. It might be there, might not be there. And if we pass something like this and then it's not there the next time, then it becomes an unfunded mandate and nobody knows where that's going to go. So I do have concerns about unfunded mandates. The school districts yell about that all the time. And that's a concern for me on this particular bill, that it might become an unfunded mandate, even if it isn't right now. And I do love to, looking into, right on, maybe we do a resolution encouraging school districts to maybe do some testing on this, but I'm concerned it may become an unfunded mandate at some point in time. Thank you.
Rep. Zimmerman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to commend Representative Briggs for bringing the bill forward. Question I have is, I understand that some areas across Pennsylvania, your radon levels are extremely high, and others, they're like non-existent. So is there a way to maybe prioritize where we already know that there's an issue?
I don't know if there's non-existent. I mean, there's every school district. There was a map that went circulated to some of us, has hit that 4 microliter. I went to law school. I'm not a scientist, but so there is a conversation that Rep. Mahaffey and I are going to have to see if we could prioritize some of this, because some areas are, like you said, extremely high, dangerously high, and then it's everywhere. But there might be some creative ways to minimize the testing costs in some the first round type of approach, maybe but so it's absolutely a conversation we can have. It's I'm not saying I'm going to commit to that, because I do think it's a problem statewide.
Thank you.
Okay. Rep. Pugh?
Thank you. Sorry, now in the conversations, 2 more questions came up, so I apologize for that. I just want to confirm, so you're saying that the monies already exist and they're in a pot that is ready to be spent, that we could access right now if we had to? And is it one lump sum, like if we have a school district putting in the maintenance to replace a roof because the roof is leaking on a middle school, is it the same spot or are they broken out into separate spots? That's the first question.
Evan, did you want to take a shot at that?
Sure. So just to clarify the way that it is currently written in the amendment, and I think as has been mentioned, this is part of a broader conversation, but so the way it's currently written is that there would be a $27 million transfer into the account, and then that money would be reserved for use on radon testing and mitigation efforts.
So wait, I mean, we've identified the account, and then I think we're going to have to budget it, right? So if this passes, we would have to make sure that account has the appropriate funds that would be reserved for this purpose.
Okay, that was it. Just wanted to know, are the money's already there or if we have to put it as a line item in the budget, like an additional?
Right, the line is there. The money would have to be voted on to be put there.
Okay. And then my second question, I'm just curious, does anybody know why we have to retest every 5 years? Because these mitigation systems typically have monitors right on them that tell you if they're working, not working, and what the levels are.
So I know I've been talking to a lot of really smart people on this, and they say 5 years probably is the stretch of what they feel comfortable doing retests. Things change. It's all underground. That changes. But we can have a group conversation with them to see that. I mean, it's, yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, Chair Rader.
Just a quick question. We're talking about transferring money into account. Who decides whether that money is transferred into the special account?
In the amendment, as currently drafted, it would be the Secretary of the Budget.
So they could decide not to do that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. On Amendment 2653, those in support of this amendment entering the bill shall vote aye. Those opposed, nay. Evan, would you take the roll? Chair Vitale, aye.
Brown,
Designation aye.
Fleming, Hohenstein,
Designation aye.
Isaacson, Kazim,
Designation aye.
Otten,
Designation aye.
Pielli,
Designation aye.
Rivera,
Designation aye.
Salisbury,
Designation aye.
Schlossberg,
Designation aye.
Steele,
Designation aye.
Takak,
Designation aye.
Webster, Rader, Bashline, Day,
Yes.
Flick, James, Kephart, Mahaffey, Pugh, Stender, Twardzik, Wentling, Zimmerman.
Okay, so sufficient number of aye votes incorporates this amendment into the bill. So the question becomes, shall this committee report House Bill 289 as amended to the House as a whole? Evan, could you take the roll?
Vitale,
Aye.
Brown,
Designation aye.
Fleming,
Designation.
Hohenstein,
Designation aye.
Isaacson, Kazim,
Designation aye.
Otten,
Designation aye.
Pielli,
Designation aye.
Rivera,
Designation aye.
Salisbury, Schlossberg,
Designation aye.
Steele,
Designation aye.
Takak,
Designation aye.
Webster, Rader, Bashline, Day,
Yes.
Flick, James, Kephart, Mahaffey, Pugh, Stender, Twardzik, Wentling, Zimmerman.
Okay, so a sufficient number of aye votes having been cast, House Bill 289 will be reported out of committee and to the House as a whole. That concludes our agenda. Before we adjourn, does Chair Rader have any closing thoughts? Very good. I appreciate that. Well, this meeting is adjourned, and thank you very much.